More plasma cases. Would be too shaped.
Yes.
I have it, so you just tell me when and I'll call it.
Yep. When it's time.
The rabbi will tell you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so it's going to be like a minute or two.
Okay.
In just a minute? Okay, I'll call him.
Time to make sure your cell phones are turned on for the service. אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעצת רשעים ובדרך חטאים לא עמד ובמשה ליסים ראש לא ישב. כי אם בשורת עמך אבצו ושרוסו יגע יומם ולילה. והיה שוסו על פלגי מים אשר פריה וייתם ואיתו ועליה לא ייבל וכל אשר יעשה יצליח. ולכן הרשעים כי אם חמוס אשר תדפנו רוח, על כן לא יקומו ראשון במשפט, וחטאים בעדת צדיקים, כי ידע אדוני דרך צדיקים ודרך ראשון טובים. I'd like to call Rabbi Aryeh Stecker to say a kapitel of Tehillim.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני מי יגור באוהליך, משכון בהר קודשך. הולך תמים ופועל צדק, ודובר אמס בלבבו. לא רגע לשונו, לא עשה לרעהו רע, וחרפה לא נשא על קרובו. נבזה בעיניו נמאס, וסירא אדוני יכבד, נשבע להוריו לא ימיר. כספו לא נשן בנשך, ושוחד על נקי לא לקח.
The Gemara in Sanhedrin talks about a hesped, a eulogy, and it considers two possibilities. Is the purpose of the eulogy in order to give honor to the person who has perished? Or is the purpose of a eulogy in order to honor those who are left behind? Every funeral is difficult, but this one much more so than most. The pain of a parent who has to bury a child is the type of pain that none of us should ever have to experience. How much more so in this case, when Meir, it seemed, was being taken care of by his parents, but at the same time was doing so much for them. Rabbi Twersky, we all know, not only a Rav, but the closest friends, the families of the Hellers and the Twerskys go back, I'd say at least a century at this point. Rabbi Twersky could not physically make it today, but he very much wanted to give a hesped. Therefore, hopefully technology will bear with us. He will deliver a few words.
And I'm going to go ahead and put you up to the mic. Wait maybe just 5 seconds. We're ready for you, Rabbi.
To talk about a lifetime of closeness. Because when we returned to Denver after my father's Batira, Meir was only 4 years old. And even though our relationship goes back to 70, 80 years of our lifetimes together, having watched and carried a child as we danced Simchas Torah, as we went through the process of growing up in his bar mitzvah, and all the dreams and hopes that every parent and every Rav and every close friend wants to have, was part of every fiber of our lives. To be here and to see the aura in front of me, because if technology allows us to be there, or even where we're miles apart. Because I remember the pride and the joy of the Levitt family, Sam and Sarah, and they saw their children and grandchildren grow. And all of the hopes and the dreams of this one sweetest child, whose sweetness emanated from him in everything that he did, and his dreams and his hopes of what he would be able to accomplish in his life. We lived through them, we watched them, and now we face the impossibility of that those dreams could never have can't ever happen. And so when, as parents, we come against the wall of the impossibility and the pain that says, I will never be able to see this future happen. It's sort of looking at the field of yellow dandelions, and then all of a sudden they're all blown away. There's nothing left except for emptiness. However, in that vision lies that there are many wonderful flowers that will grow again, and that the sweetness that LeMayer invested into those people, everybody who was close to him, will always keep on growing. It will never stop. And though we can't hold on to him anymore physically, we will be able to hold on to the memories and to the sweetness and to make that something which we will always cherish. His bar mitzvah was only 31 years ago. That in our lifetime is just a drop. It was just yesterday. How is it possible? How is it possible that we can't see that anymore? So our words to all of us, to family, to Duvi and friend, the sweetness that the mayor had in him will inspire all of us to try and be a little bit sweeter, a little bit kinder to each other. That we will be able to take into our hearts even the children that don't seem to fit into the plans of what we would imagine for them to have. And to love them more, and to care for them more. Because the pain of this loss tells us to cherish the future of our children and grandchildren that will carry on this family's love and tradition and love for Yiddishkeit. So without enough words, we will get to the Kel Rachamim, because only Hashem has enough Rachamim to help us deal with. We can't say we can never forget. We can never even ask why. All we can say is, Hashem, help us take the next steps so that we take these sweet words and carry the sweetness to others. Hashem will give that family the ability to be able to share the sweetness in the future generations that are still coming, that are there and still coming, and that the entire family and the whole Kehillah, everybody who has known the Holocaust for their entire lifetimes, and the Levitts for their lifetimes, the strength to be able to carry more sweetness into this world, into the chus of the memory of Yaakov Meir and Nachman David. And from Materna, the tefillah we poured out, which Hashem said, no, I can't respond to those that way. It will give us the ability to be able to see how we carry that into our future as well. We ask Hashem to bind up his nefesh in the bond of life, our lives and the lives of the future generations, so that we will be able to say, Zechron L'Levracha, we remembered a very sweet person, and his memory is always a good bracha. And then we will be able to come to Yimenachem, B'Sef Shabbat, Tzir Yerushalayim. And all the rest of the mourners of Tzir Yerushalayim will merit to see the day when the world would be a place of sweet and happiness.
Now call on Mayor's brother, Rabbi Avi Heller, to say a few words.
Everyone I know knew my brother, Yehi Zichro Baruch, and I, Libada L'chaim L'chaim, look very much alike. Whenever people would say we looked alike, he would say, but I'm the younger and better looking brother. And I would add, also the better dressed. I remember that he came to MJE once in a paisley jacket, and people remembered it for years. I feel like Meir is the Seir HaMishtaleach, the scapegoat sent over the cliff to die in Yom Kippur, and we're still in our lives, but I can't believe that we can't make that journey together. I, mamish, can't believe that I am nearly 50 years old. I've never been an Avel, and that the first time I'll say Kaddish as a mourner and be comforted by my community is from my younger brother. What a terrible tragedy. It's not the way things are supposed to be. When I spoke to Rabbi Tversky early this morning, he told me, we spoke about how we have a sense of the way the world is supposed to operate. And we think that's how the world is. This is the way the world is supposed to progress. And sometimes, despite the fact that you think that's the way the world goes, Hashem shows you that everything you thought was true is not true. That everything is upside down from the way you thought it was. And that's how I feel today. Upside down, inside out. It could be hard to find examples in the Torah of brothers who get along. Cain and Hevel, Yitzchak and Ishmael, Yaakov and Esav, Yosef and his brothers, David and Amnon. We too, as brothers, had our differences, our struggles and our disputes over the years, but we did better than all of those siblings. We may not have been Moshe and Aaron or Yisachar and Zvulun, but we tried as best as we could to be there for each other, to support each other, to show our love. Bubby always taught us that blood is thicker than water. And we took that to heart. We assumed we were tied together for life and had to find a way to get through any rough spots. My little brother often drove me crazy, but I really love that little son of a gun. And I can't believe that he's gone. I really loved him, and I miss him already. Both Beezy and I came to Meir at different times and outed him from the closet and told him we still loved him and that he was still welcome in our lives and in the lives of our families. We were worried that he would become a stranger to our family or feel like a stranger in our family because of who he was. And I think that that plan worked. He found a way to be who he was and not feel that he needed to run away from our family, only from this world. And Meir wanted to be good to us. He always wanted to treat and spoil our kids. Both Beezy's and my kids loved him very, very much. It's very hard for them to be here today. I know that. I'm sorry. He lavished his attention and his style on them. And when COVID hit and Meir could not bear to be alone in his tiny Manhattan apartment, we brought him into our home and into our nuclear family, and he was one of us. He cooked for us and he shopped for us and he drove for us, and he was never just a guest in our home. He was even in our internal family WhatsApp chat, and that is Kodesh HaKodashim. He went with us on our last vacation to Puerto Rico right before COVID, and some of the most wonderful pictures that we have of him, and we don't have enough. We look back on, see him smiling and laughing and having a good time with Rinat and Shira on the zip line, with Uriel on the sailboat. One of our most serious heart-to-hearts that Meir and I ever had in our whole lives together was in the hot tub behind the hacienda. But for all the struggles that Yitzchak and Yishmael had, they came together to bury their father. Yishmael did tshuva, say Chazal, in time to honor him. That's why the pasuk puts Yishmael first. And when Yitzchak was nifter, Yaakov and Esav buried him together. And this is what I thought that we would do together. My father should live to 120 years like Moshe Rabbeinu, and my mother to 127 like Sari Menu. But in my mind, I thought that when we were old and gray, that me, Beezy, and Meir would pick up shovels and be malav our parents to their final resting place. That's the way the world's supposed to work. The very idea that instead it will be me, Beezy, and my father picking up shovels to bury my little brother is unimaginable. That a child has to be buried by their parents is an olam hafuch. I just can't understand the world. I can't wrap my head around it. Two weeks ago, some of you might know, my father had a health scare. Meir and my mom had to take him to the hospital. Baruch Hashem, Dad just needed a little medication and a stern warning to take better care of his health. When Meir moved home a year ago to Denver, we hoped, Shira and I hoped, that he would find some purpose and meaning in his life, trying to heal himself and in taking on the role of helping my parents. My parents are not as young as they used to be. Both my mom and my dad could use a young man's help around the house. And I think a little bit, he did embrace that role. Mostly, I think they annoyed the hell out of each other, but in a way that only people that you really love can annoy the hell out of you. I have angry texts from Meir from just a few weeks ago about how Dad is eating ice cream again. Eating ice cream. I can imagine Meir berating my father and Dad sitting down in the chair with a mischievous grin and spooning it in. It was like Meir's childhood inverted. When my father called me last week to tell me Meir was in the hospital, I didn't understand what was happening. I imagine that Meir also needed a little medication and a stern warning to take better care of his health. But we did not know that by the time he walked through the doors of Denver Health, that he was literally Daled Amos away from death. That he was the thinnest covering of ice on the pond away from sinking down. You can't even tell until it cracks and you plunge into the depths. They quickly put him on a million life support mechanisms to desperately try to save him. But he never regained consciousness. We never had a chance to say a proper goodbye. We gathered around his bed and we sang old TRI tunes at the top of our lungs in the ICU. But we never really got to say goodbye. Beezy and Meir never got to heal the rift that has grown between them over the last few years. I know they both wanted to, but they didn't have the chance. I never got to talk to Meir after his last text to me 2 weeks ago when he told me how very depressed he was and how his life had never looked more bleak. I think he knew that he was coming to the end long before we did. He was a young man. He should have had so much hope and life and love ahead of him. Meir's 44th birthday is in 2 weeks from today. So olam hafuch. His body and his soul couldn't even complete this journey around the sun. Couldn't even make it to the next Rosh Hashanah. Mi yichya u mi yamus. Hashem knew already last Rosh Hashanah that would be his last. My brother Meir was the youngest child. Beezy and I had so many strict rules imposed on us by our parents. And little Meir, who was always the cutest and most angelic looking of all of us, Beezy might dispute that, got away with everything. He was so cute that I literally tortured him throughout our whole childhood just because I wanted to touch his soft cheeks and baby him. I remember that as a baby and as a young boy, our cousin Zahava, who we all adored, this sort of larger than life, older sister, would lavish extra attention on Meir, dressing him and pampering him, singing with him. We were all so jealous. He became a handsome and talented young man. He was always enthralled by Broadway, and he was a talented actor and singer. We went to our first audition together, and he got the part. We sang a duet together at BU in the a cappella group. That recording is still available online. And he had the lead because he was the only one who could hit the high notes. We were all waiting for him to get his big break on Broadway so we could celebrate his accomplishments and his talent, his big personality, his beautiful tenor voice. At the end, when he was deeply sedated and fighting for breath, hooked up to tubes and valves and drips, we started playing Broadway tunes. Hamilton, Wicked, Waitress, Chicago, Into the Woods, even some Pippin, his first show. And when they would hit the high notes, he would open his eyes wide and start to move his head. We don't know what was going on inside, but we hope it gave him some comfort to hear the happy sounds of his life, the things that he loved. Meir loved my parents. He was not always the most dutiful or obedient son, not when he was little and not when he was big, but he had a huge heart and he wanted to be needed and to give to them. He was always concerned about mom's health, and if dad was taking care of himself, he wanted to be a good son. Meir loved his whole family, and he loved going to Bradley Beach. I think he felt a deep kinship to Bubby Sarah. May her memory be for a blessing. And he enjoyed her big personality and her slightly outrageous humor. We still tell the story of when we went to see The Grapes of Wrath, and I'll leave the details out, but Bubby gasped and commented loud enough for the whole theater to hear. I wish Bubby Sarah, I often think about her, that she had made it to her 100th birthday, but I am not sorry that she did not have to see the tragic death of her grandson. He was close with so many of our cousins, the New Jersey crew, now spread out all across the East Coast. It is a tremendous comfort and bittersweet pleasure that so many of them were able to attend today and felt motivated to come join us in this time of sorrow by flying out last minute to be here. Thank you for being here. Meir was good at keeping secrets and being private, a trait that is pretty common among the Hellers. And he hid the demon that he lived with for so many years as best as he could. We came to know this stranger that was part of his life, and we tried, although not hard enough, Rahman al-Islam, to separate them, but we did not know how. And we did not know that it was already too late. And there was no escape for him. It's true that Meir died this week and at this time, but the writing was already on the wall a long time before. It's tragic that Meir was a stranger in this world, that he never found a partner to love and to love him, that he never found a place in his Yiddishkeit or a community of people that could support him emotionally and spiritually, that he never had a chance to be a father. He also wanted to have people to care for. He would make this huge production out of cooking Thanksgiving and Shabbos meals and setting the table in perfect style. We still have the Tiffany rattles he lavished on our children when they were born, and they remember his gifts and the gifts of his attention when he would go with them to the theater and share his love with them. Many people will remember Meir. In the last few days, I've heard from so many people who were touched by their memories of him. People I've not heard from in many years, from our childhood in Denver, from our days at BU, from New York City, from Israel. They were all shocked that a person with so much joie de vivre, so full of life and warmth and creativity, that he could have left this world so young. Perhaps it's true that we all have a tafkid in this world, that we all have a purpose we were meant to fulfill. We can hope that Meir's loss, which is so tragic and heartbreaking for all of us who are left behind the mechitza that now separates us, that his traveling to the next world means that he was mimalei tafkido, that he fulfilled his purpose in this world and was ready to move on to the next world, to the olam and Shemot. May his memory be for a blessing for all of us. Shira.
When Meir sent me text messages, he wanted confetti and balloons. So I couldn't let today go by without saying a few words of tribute. When my sister was very little, she couldn't say my name. She called me Ia. It was primal and intimate, and thinking about it is one of the ways I know we shared a childhood. Meir, who had silly nicknames for all of us, often called me Shiva. Usually when I looked tired or sad or aggravated, "What's the matter, Shiva?" When I would hear him speak to me that way, it almost felt as if we'd shared a childhood too. Mayor has been in my life for a really long time, and it wouldn't be much of a stretch to say that we met as kids. College is hardly adulthood. But something about the bond we created was even more visceral than that. When I think of Mayor, I think of my brother, not my brother-in-law. And there are so many ways we were like siblings. Mayor knew just how to annoy me. He would send me a text to say gleefully, "I'm coming over with ridiculous presents. You're gonna hate it." And sometimes his gifts were inspired. And then there were the times he got a stuffed goat that yodeled like Maria from The Sound of Music, or a feathered Elmo that sang the chicken dance song, and I wanted to strangle him. We called each other names and hurt each other's feelings. We fought for real about things that matter. We loved and criticized each other's cooking and had more than one argument that sounded like, "No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. Shut up. No, you shut up." And you get to be that uncensored, that childish and petty, angry, vulnerable, sad, and joyful with someone you truly love and trust. And we really did. My senior year of college, Avi had already moved away from Boston, and yet Mayor and I still saw a lot of each other. We had our own friendship. One time, Mayor stepped on a piece of broken glass, and I went with him to the podiatrist and held his hand and distracted him while the glass shard was removed. When we had Thanksgiving at my parents' house with my grandparents of blessed memory, he listened to my grandmother so deeply and with such compassion that for years afterwards, she would always ask after him, "How's that Mayor?" Once we had kids, Uncle Mayor was born. As Avi said, he loved spoiling our children. I'll never forget the teeny tiny leather jackets he brought back from his trip to Italy. He played with them and he let them put him in Uncle Mayor jail. He taught them about hair product and musicals and wasn't afraid to tell them not to look at him in that tone of voice. When he needed a place to do some laundry or get a home cooked meal or just some sympathy for whatever was irritating him at the moment, he reached out to me. And when we needed help packing for one of our many moves, we called Mayor. When we needed a babysitter, we called Mayor. When I needed a sous chef, I called Mayor. He's basically the only person I could stand to work with in the kitchen. He made the tablescapes for every Thanksgiving and Yom Tov meal, made sure we had sour pickles from Gus's, and was forever stocking our kitchen with the kids' favorite treats. I married into an amazing family. And I often say how lucky I feel to have a second family that I love and like. But Mayor got to be someone I took for granted in my life. And that's the biggest luxury. I just assumed that, like my sister, like my husband, like my kids, I'd grow old with Mayor in my life. We loved pointing out each other's gray hair and wrinkles. And I kind of always assumed that there was a lot more of that to come. If I close my eyes, I can still hear him fetching about how loud our footsteps sound from his room in our basement. And I can hear him coming up the stairs and singing, "Something smells yummy." I can't believe I won't hear that again. I'm astonished to be here. It's unacceptable and unspeakable and wrong. It's almost impossible to find consolation for a loss like this. But if there is any, it's that my jokes, my home, my family, and my memory are full of Mayor and always will be.
When it comes to the final act of kindness that we can do for Yaakov Meir, which is to bury him with dignity, we don't entrust that task to anyone else. We do it ourselves. And all those who want to participate in that mitzvah of helping to inter Meir are welcome to do so. We're going to start with the family and the mourners. The custom is, as you see my father doing, that the first 3 shovelfuls are done with the back of the shovel to show our reluctance in doing this task. And when you're done shoveling, and you hand the shovel to someone else, put it down in the dirt. Do not hand it directly to them. Thank you for being part of this Chatzah Shalom.
El Madrachamim Shofim Bamagomim. I'm saying the first of I can't pay Ashkino. The Malas Kedoshim Time Kedor Via Basir. Es Mishmas. Yaakov Meir Ben Nachman David. Sholach Lolamo. Babu Sholach Matfilim. Bad as course Mishmaso. But I need him the first on the Fame Balrachim. Yesterday was says it enough of Lord Lamim. Yisrael b'tzorachayim im nishmaso, Anohu nachalaso, Yonuch b'shalom ha'mishkava v'nom ha'romen.
Shiva will be at the Heller House, 220 South Kearney. Chakras will be at 7 and tomorrow at 7:30.
Huh? Yeah, I see.
We ask that everybody please make 2 parallel lines in front of the Avelim so we can do Nichum Avelim. hold